It's the Morning Marketing Machine, here to grow your e-commerce business with proven marketing strategies and tactics, so you can run your business with machine-like precision. My name is Douglas Levin. Let's dive in. So welcome everyone to Morning Marketing Machine, and I have a very special guest today. So I was actually networking and I came across this guy and he was really interesting and he's got a lot going on. So I figured, hey, let's talk some over here. So Justin Ortel has been a business consultant for the past decade, working mainly in the wine industry. Over the past 3 years, he began helping brick and mortar stores transition to e-commerce. Last year, he took a business that was running about 6K a year online and over 8 months transition to over what 250 grand. So he loves helping people, and that is what has kept him going over the past few years. So welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you. I look forward to talking with you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to hearing everything you got to say here. And for the people that don't know about you, I know you're becoming a lot more popular in the space now. But for people that don't know, if you can let them know how you got started in e-commerce.
So I've been selling on Amazon for the past 4 years now. Amazon was like my starting point. I like I have a mentorship program where I teach Amazon sellers as well. My big push is people not to sell in one channel. I'm much more into you need to have multiple sales channels to grow your business to scale. And you shouldn't be focusing on Amazon. Amazon should be a sales channel and that's it. So I've been doing that for years now and kind of been pushing that. I know there's up to a million ways to sell on Amazon and different strategies and everything. But that's my big push is to have those multiple sales channels where you can control your customers and stuff like that. And that was my big start. I started in brick and mortar as a business consultant, and having my customer base and being able to engage with my customer base has always been huge. So, I brought that same kind of thinking into e-commerce and just tweaked strategies and went that route. And that's how I've found myself here now.
Mhm. So if you started, like you were talking about the idea of being in brick and mortar. So what was the impetus for you to kind of say, I'm going to start to do this in e-commerce?
So I watched, I'm an analytical guy. So I was watching business analytics, and the stores that were starting to creep up were e-com. Um, and the wine industry is not a very strong industry for e-commerce right now. Even now in 2021, it's a struggling spot. But I was watching all these stores, the big names, Nike, Adidas, everybody's shifting that way, and taking more market share in the e-commerce world. So I did the same shift for mom and pops and um, mainly wineries here in New York, and we started to make those kind of shifts as well.
Mhm. So obviously, like I know we've talked previously, and you're really great in terms of the marketing aspects. How did you end up taking those brick and mortar stores? Like, because obviously you had a history with them, and then you kind of crossed over to e-commerce, and you've helped them, and you've helped other people as well. Where did you learn in terms of the marketing and like the principles that have been able to apply for brick and mortar, and for then also for your own companies as you're going into e-commerce?
So I've tried taking a couple courses here and there. I don't have any like real big formal marketing background.
Mhm.
Mine was a lot about learning on the go and being it. I'm at, from a mindset perspective. I'm really big about failing fast, learning and implementing something new. Um, it's the best way I've found to learn. You have to be willing to take the risk to fail, but when you learn from it and take those steps forward, is what I've found to be the best way. You can sit back and if you're in an MBA program or a business program in college or anything, they're great for knowledge bases, but you need to learn and you need to be able to take those kind of risks and understand what those risks mean in your long term. Um, but social media has been my saving grace in my brick and mortar stores, being able to build both a Facebook following as well as an email leads generation kind of following where I can network that way. No matter what happens, it gives me multiple channels to just like I have multiple channels to sell through. I want multiple channels to be able to reach out to as well.
Mhm. So obviously you just talked about the idea of like failing fast, and anyone who's been in any business for any period of time knows that it's never going to work out exactly like you think, especially at the beginning. So what goes into your thought process when obviously you arrived the idea now of failing fast, but I assume beforehand when you get those struggles, it's a little harder to get through. So like, what has helped you to get to that level of like, all right, now I want the data. I want to make decisions based off of what it tells me. So what has helped you to get to that level?
Yeah, so like I said, I've always been big on analytics,
Mhm.
and I also am not afraid to look at what the largest company in the space is doing, and try to emulate it. You know, the winery I'm running right now, we do like 11,000 cases a year, so about 22,000 gallons of wine. I've worked at wineries that do upwards of 1 million gallons a year. But our processes are identical because I emulate the top guys, and that's why I'm able to bring the small guys up so quick. Is because I get them into that mindset where, and it's the same in the econ space. I watched what the top Amazon sellers were doing, and then tried to formulate a way to do what they were doing.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, I'm not telling you to go copy somebody else's business, but look at the processes they're using. Look at what the similarities are between their products, and buy their product and figure out what kind of post product marketing are they doing. Watch their funnels, watch Facebook ads, go on Facebook and see if they have a Facebook page, and then see if they're running Facebook ads to
Mhm.
it. There's lots of ways that you can follow a business for very little money. I mean, go spend $50 on a product to see what kind of follow-up funnel they have. And if you end up buying a second product based on that follow-up funnel, you might want to pay attention to what they did, because they just talked you into it and you weren't even looking to buy something else.
Mhm.
There's lots of ways to do that and kind of follow that path to get more of that data that you don't have to do on your own. You don't have to fail on a follow-up funnel up to a million times. You can watch what the top 10 guys are doing and figure out what works for you.
So obviously like we focus more on here like in e-commerce more than just Amazon, and
Yeah.
obviously both of us have been on Amazon for a while, but for people that are like they're looking to get started, maybe they're on Amazon, they're looking to get off, or maybe they're like, hey, I want to get started with e-commerce in general. What would be like the number one thing that you would tell them to do in terms of on if they're looking to start with the e-commerce side?
My biggest thing, like the people I've seen have the most success in the beginning, are people who build their Facebook page first.
Mhm.
And one, it's like as soon as you figure out what you're going to start selling, like the idea of what you're going to start selling, start posting about it on Facebook. Invite all your friends, tell them to invite all their friends, and then start just producing content over and over and over and over again. Um, we just did that with a launch of one of my students, and they started their Facebook page about 3 months ago and just launched, but they launched with an email list of like 400 people,
Mhm.
based on just driving traffic to a landing page off of their Facebook page. Fantastic. That was 400 people I could email about a launch without paying any advertising fees. Um, so those are like leveraging social media and leveraging social contact is huge. Getting out there and don't be afraid to talk to people. Um, like they're a relationship game. So we went into relationship groups and we talked. We talked to the admins about it, and then got permission to post about what our company was doing.
Mhm.
Because then we were able to target our market with, once again, no money, just nothing. So there are ways to kind of bootstrap it along that really are super super successful.
Mhm. And one of the things that you said that I don't want people to kind of gloss over is that you said that they started with their Facebook page and then it took 3 months, right? And
Right.
all reality, like 3 months is pretty short. So
Yeah, it was one of the shortest times I've got, but they were so willing to take what I told them about, like, because I told them up front, growing your Facebook page can be extremely beneficial in, like, not just your first product launch, but every product launch that you do. After you do that first one, you have those email lists. You can email them again, um, and keep them engaged in your content and everything. And so they came to me and they're like, "What about Facebook groups?" I'm like, "Well, don't just go out launching stuff into Facebook groups. Join a Facebook group, find out who the admins are, and then talk to them. And then, if they say, yeah, go ahead and push content, you're good to go. Um, which made it so we could, and we weren't just, and we don't just push sales content. We push, content about building relationships and stuff like that, where we're not selling every post, but we're providing content and value for people, especially for our target market. And that's how we were able to grow that Facebook page so quick.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people, if they're say coming from the Amazon side or just into e-commerce in general, they don't kind of understand that idea of the like. But I think Gary Vee is the one that make popularized it with what jab jab right hook kind of strategy, right? Where it is really you need to give them value, you need to give them content, and not just keep pushing your product all the time. Because I mean that's on Amazon, it's oh yeah, sale, sale, sale. That's all they care about because it's not your customer. But when you're
Right.
dealing with anything with e-commerce, you want to own that customer and you actually have to have a relationship where you're providing value. So yeah, definitely what you're saying there.
Yeah. The more value you can provide them, the longer their lifetime value is going to be to your company. Um, you shouldn't just be looking at one and done customers. If you're looking to build a brand around, whether it's relationships or health or financial stuff, it's really easy to get those guys to buy over and over and over again. Different things leading up your value ladder.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you've talked about your the wine background here. So one of the things I do want to ask is obviously we've kind of focused a lot on marketing, but what's the part of the business that you love the most?
Being able to talk to people. That's I'm super social, and honestly, as social as I am, I was terrified to be in front of cameras. Um, Podcast, cameras, anything where I had to talk. Like I could type to somebody all day long. So this is all new to me, but I've gotten a lot more comfortable in it over time. But if you're social, just talk to people. like getting out and talking to people and being able to, you know, my winery, I don't really solve problems, but I make people happy. Um, People love our wine, makes them happy. So I get gratification there. Um, other programs I run, we help people in Amazon. I get to see people's lives change, and get to be part of it. It's fantastic. I won't say everybody succeeds, but the people that really buy in and go after it, it's great working with them. Just because I do get to see that long term stuff, and that's why I don't do like the big group trainings or anything like that. Is because I like working one on one because that's where I get to follow your system all the way through and kind of help you figure out where you are and what you're doing, and we try to build a brand around, and I get to be part of that, and I get to, my wife tells me, I know people from all over, and like anytime we travel, I run into people I know, and she's like, you just talk to everybody. She's like, I've given up taking you somewhere where you're not going to know people, but that's helped me build everything just by being social. And it's not hard, it might be hard for an introvert to get out there and talk, but stay behind your keyboard in the beginning.
Mhm.
Build up your confidence that way, where you don't have to be front facing and don't have to be, on a screen or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I guess is in some ways is a benefit of how the virus has been is that everyone's at home. So like we're talking here through Zoom, right? And you don't really see in-person conferences right now. So
Right.
you can still build up at home, like at your desk or something like that. And it's going to give you more confidence as you're kind of going through stuff.
Yeah, and that's the problem is like I still see a huge negative stigma around e-commerce and making money online and that kind of stuff. The people that are saying that, they're going to get left behind, at some point in time. It's There is a huge shift coming, and I believe it'll be within the next decade, where you're going to see the majority of money made electronically, um, whether it's e-commerce or online sales. Door-to-door sales, I think, is dying. You're seeing the end of like brick and mortar malls, especially here in the Northeast. You're starting to see a lot of the signs of the shift where so much more is going online. And there's so many more ways to make money online. And 20 years ago, anything online was deemed a scam. Like if you tried talking to people about making money online 20 years ago, people laughed at you. And I still see some of that stigma, like when I talk to people and whatnot. And it's something that people will have to cross at some point in time. Just making that shift to get there is going to take time and going to take some breaking of the molds.
Mhm. And obviously, where you're coming from, where you deal with a lot of brick and mortar stores in whether the wine industry or I know you said you had a history with it as well. Like, are they just not like I come from e-commerce, so I've always been of that mindset of hey, it's the future. Hey, especially when the virus hit and Amazon and other e-commerce channels couldn't handle the traffic. Um,
Right.
so how like if I want to understand like how are brick and mortar store people like if they're so far behind, like what's their thought process now that they're not really able to make that transition?
So what I found is one, they need the instant gratification of money up front, just
Mm,
done and over with. Having to like with the wine industry, we ran break even front end funnels for our most successful guys, where we're retaining like 82% of our one time buyers into repeat customers.
mhm,
So I don't care about breaking even on the front, um, and that comes from an e-commerce mindset.
mhm,
Um, a lot of these guys, brick and mortar guys, have been open for 60, 70 years, and they just haven't changed. This just it gets handed down from grandparent to the parents to the now to the kids, and the ones that are getting down to the kids age, some of those are the ones that I've been able to break and be like, look, we need to shift. But the older generations haven't been so far because that's how they've always done things, and that was the social norm for them. So breaking into e-commerce has been much harder there for those guys, and then understanding lifetime value and being able to retain customers and being able to upsell customers on multiple products online has been difficult for a lot of those guys to see.
mhm. Well, and one of the things that you brought it up a couple times. Obviously, like you brought it up now with brick and mortar, and you brought it up with how you like to kind of attack things, where you say like fail fast, and you're also trying to get out there and network more. There are so many people out there. Like I'd say it's probably the norm where people are resistant to change, or they're well, this is how it's always been, so this is how it's going to be,
Right.
or like the idea of trying to I don't know if you would say improve yourself, but grow. So obviously, this is something that it seems like is an entrenched part of your life and philosophy. But it's not always successful when you start. So like, what helps you in those situations, and do you think helps people in general when they're in those situations and it's not successful at first, or they're struggling to even think about, well, why am I going to make that change? Like, what helps you in that situation so you can kind of keep at it when it doesn't work immediately.
I would say like what helped me was just that like I said, analytics. I've always believed that I can if somebody can do it, I can do it too. That's I was a D1 baseball player, um, and I came from a super small school, so getting into baseball was huge for me. It's not something that I typically would be able to do coming out of a small school. And then I got hurt. That ended that. But
Mhm.
um, you know, so I started super young, thinking anything I could do anything, and that was kind of the mindset I had. And yeah, I failed at things. I failed at multiple things growing up, but the fact that I was able to keep because I knew I like internally I knew I could figure it out, and that's what's kept me going. And it's one of the things that I tend to teach is you got to have a mindset where you can take failure. If you can't take failure, it doesn't matter how much you're going to strategize, how good your strategy is, because there's always going to be roadblocks. And the people that don't have that kind of mindset that they're going to fail at some point in time along their path to success, once they fail, they quit. Um, and I don't know how to quit. Um, just never have. So um, you can take that as a pro or a con, whether you're talking to me in business or me when I'm arguing with my wife. But um, you know, but but yeah, it's the mindset of being able to move forward and take some beatings and take some knockdowns along that path, and you got to be ready for that. So if you go in thinking you're going to make $1 million this month and you don't, and you make 100, you got to figure out, is that a win or a loss? That's $100 that you didn't do before.
Right.
Um, so I'm really big at setting both my long term big goal, but setting small goals to hit along the way, just because it keeps your mindset up and keeps you a little bit motivated to hit those realistic goals quick and move forward that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a great way to look at it too. And we talked, I guess, a little bit last time we spoke. You talked about the kind of the relationship between mindset and actually like strategy and tactics. I know that's something I wanted to talk about a little bit as well, because I know when we talked about it, and you hear people a lot of times online, they talk about mindset, and that's the end all be all. And yes, I do believe that if you don't have mindset, it's not going to work. But it obviously there's the relationship between mindset and strategy as well. If you can talk a little bit about your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, so especially over the last couple of months, I've seen people pushing the whole you need mindset, and strategy doesn't mean all that much. If you have the mindset, you're going to be successful, and that's kind of true to a point. You might have some success. But the best way I've found to put it is the mindset's your glasses. It lets you see. And then strategy is your map that you're looking at to get from point A to point B. Now, with mindset, you might stumble upon some success. But if you put that strategy with that mindset, you're going to be able to follow your map, hit the roadblocks, and then look at your map and find ways around it, and build strategy around those roadblocks. And even sometimes being able to see the roadblocks before they hit you, as you get better and better strategically. So both mindset and strategy play vital roles. I just don't buy into this whole mindset as the be all that I'm seeing some coaches push lately.
So obviously, if you're talking about the idea of strategy, is it like what kind of strategy, like when you're trying to look at it from the perspective of someone who's starting and they're dealing with hopefully they're trying to get a better mindset than they've had in the past. Like what is it books that have helped you? Is it just the networking side of things? What has helped you in terms of figuring out that strategy that can go with that mindset?
So I mean, I read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think I 63 books last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do a book a week or so, and Dichotomy of Leadership and Extreme Ownership by I'm gonna forget who wrote it now.
Was that the two military guys from like
Yeah, they're military guys.
Leif? What was the guy's name? Yeah, I don't remember. Of course, we'll know it.
Whoever wrote those books, they're great books about taking
Yeah.
ownership of what you do, and kind of like I took a hold of that. I read those last year, and both my consulting world and the businesses I run, I watched my staff start buying into things a lot more because I was like 100% in. Any decision I made, I owned. If it failed, it was my fault. It wasn't my staff's fault. It was my fault. So and that kind of trickled down between my upper staff and everything now, where if they make a decision, they own that decision. And I give them the power to make those decisions as long as they own them. And failure doesn't mean you're in trouble in our business anymore. Failure means that, hey, let's look at this, figure out what went wrong, figure out how we're going to fix it, and figure out how we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And we move forward. And that kind of leadership and ownership of our issues now has made it so my staff isn't afraid to take chances. Which to be the best business, you're going to have to take chances. You're going to have to think outside the box and try things that maybe aren't proven yet. And that's what our businesses do now, without the worry of, hey, if I fail at this, I'm going to get fired. We know that's not what we do. If we fail at something and you don't take ownership of it, you're going to be in trouble. But, as long as we don't do that, we're good. But those it's going to drive me nuts. I can't think of their names.
Yeah. I know. I read it too. I'm sure. I know there's two people in it, and I think one of them actually became really, really big in the space afterwards with other books that he's written too.
Yeah, he's written. The one guy has written like 4, and now he's big into e-commerce.
Yeah. Well, everyone's going there, right?
Right. You had to make the shift when COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's driving me nuts in the wine industry, because I'm driving a lot of traffic to other wineries' websites now,
from my Facebook ads, because people don't just want to come to one winery when they're going out to these wineries. So now because we're becoming so popular, we're helping out the other wineries, but I can't get them on board to do the same thing. And so it just drives me nuts. You know.
Oh, can you move up a little bit? It's hard to hear. But yeah, it's all right with that. But I know I was having a conversation honestly with my wife. I think it was yesterday. We were talking about how really the only way that you can be successful in terms of e-commerce is you have to take those risks. I
Yeah.
mean, if that's what we as business owners, it's how we work. Is that um, like 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 the people that are only wanting comfort and they're only wanting I want predictability of basically what a 9 to 5 job is going to take. Well, that's what you got to do. What we do inherently has risk, and it's why people fail, and it's also why you have to stick with it when things don't go your way. And like I think there's a book Psycho Cybernetics where I heard them talking about basically what you were saying about the idea of being able to take risks because I guess the analogy that they gave is it's like a directing missile, I think is what they're saying,
Mhm.
and all it means is when you're making a mistake is that you're a step closer to the right direction. Because if you don't ever take off, then you're never gonna get where you want to go anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you, since you're talking about you read a lot, and as someone who's taken it, 2020 was where I made that transition as well, where I read the most I've read. I want to ask, what's the best book that you've read in the last 6 months?
Best book that I've read. Uh, Business wise, probably the E-Myth Revisited. Um, that was another good one that I read. I actually had some conversations amongst some other e-commerce sellers about that work or that book specifically lately. Clockwork was good.
Yeah.
Uh, I liked some of the concepts in 4 Hour Work Week. I don't think a 4 Hour Work Week is necessarily feasible, um, but some of the concepts in there about outsourcing and what to focus on, I've kind of managed to build a lot of my like the clockwork systems that they talk about in that book and outsource the way that 4 Hour Work Week talks and kind of find a good middle ground.
Mhm. Yeah, very cool. I know those I have not. I guess I'm one of the only people in the world that has not read 4 Hour Work Week yet. So it's on my reading list. But everything else that you're talked about are ones I really have liked, and I think some of them are even under the reread once a year kind of a category.
Yeah, that's it. I just reread E-Myth
Okay.
about a month ago. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
because there are parts that you miss out and you realize that you thought about it and then didn't implement anything to it with your business. So it makes it those kind of books are good to reread.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times, just in general, when you're talking about business books and sometimes mindset books too, is you're going to be at a different point in your life or your business where, like I think the same thing happened with me in Think and Grow Rich. I've read it like a few times now, and every time I
Yeah.
read it, like there's a different takeaway I got from it that's going to help me. So I think it's the thing of those kinds of books you need to reread because
Right.
you can get something else out of it.
Yeah, and you know the best investment you can make is investing in yourself, and books are an investment in you as long as you take something away from them. You can spend all the money on books you want. If you don't read them, it's not going to do you anything. It's just like courses and stuff like that. I'm, I've been a consultant for over a decade now, and I still take business courses every
Mhm.
year because there's something to learn every year. Things change, strategies change. Maybe there's something in wine production that I don't know about yet. That's happened over the last year or so that I haven't read an article on or hasn't crossed one of um, my social media stages that I take a look at in the industries. Um, there, but I think those are some of the highest ROI things that I do is take those kind of courses to keep growing. Don't get stagnant. That's one of my biggest advices to people is just don't get stagnant.
Right. Oh, big time. Like and that's what I really love about what you're saying too, is like, I think a lot of people in business and I'd even say like what the Lee Iacocca's, if you're talking about from a long time ago, or those kinds of people where like you get to a certain level and then you think your crap don't stink kind of thing. And like,
Right.
but like what you're basically saying is, hey, um, uh, who's to say what's going to happen in the future? Who's to say that there's going to be this, that there's not going to be this next great thing that's going to come along? And I don't know what I don't know. So I'm not going to assume I know everything. It's always about learning, right? And that's the only way
Right.
you progress.
Yeah, I mean, just don't take it so far that you end up with shiny object syndrome and are just taking
Right.
courses after courses after courses.
Mhm.
Because I've seen it go both ways, where people either don't want to learn anything new or they want to learn everything new. So like anytime they see a Facebook ad pop up across their Facebook, that they're buying another course. You know, I had somebody in the e-commerce world that's now in my mentorship program that was like that, and I had to get them to stop
Mhm.
because they're like, well, you know, the first week we talked, they wanted Amazon. That's fine. We can build out Amazon first, and then I'll talk about all the other things after. Like a week later, like, well, I read this thing about Shopify. Let's do Shopify. And then it was, you know, well, let's do, you know, truckloads to eBay. And I'm like, man, guys, we got to focus one direction first.
Right.
Um, by all means, after you get one direction running, do more. I'm really big on multiple income streams and that everybody should have multiple ways of making money, especially with all these online ventures that you can get into. Um, so like tomorrow, if my Amazon account gets suspended for some unknown reason with Amazon,
Yeah.
I'm not up in the water on it. I can still sell through Shopify. I don't sell through Shopify. I sell through my own website, but same concept. We have multiple sales channels. That's why it's a big reason why I push that is because it does. Yes, it's a risk up front and more capital up front, but it's a protection on your back end for when it basically is when something happens with Amazon, because Amazon is Amazon and they make rule changes as they see fit.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and what you talked about with shiny object syndrome is I've had that. Like I think a lot of people do in general, and
Oh
especially
yeah,
with business owners, because your mentality is, hey, let's learn, let's do everything, and you're trying to learn things you don't know and that you've never done before. So yeah, that is part of it. But like I know for me, what really helped was like the idea that yeah, if you have shiny object syndrome, then there's all these great ideas, but you never actually make any real progress. If you're
right.
like, I'm going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 versus actually like drilling down and only spending time on on project A until it's to the point that you're talking about E-Myth revisited. Like now I've got systems and processes and I'm getting results and I don't have to do it now. I've got a team to do it, and now I can focus on. Right?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I'm starting to see it in the Amazon e-commerce world big time right now. Is a lot of people are pushing, well, go get a VA. Don't go learn, go get a VA. I hate that. But and don't get me wrong, I have like 17 VAs that work for me now. But learn it, put your own system in place and then test your system, make sure your system works, and then outsource it. That is how I've been able to build businesses and build business quick is by doing it that way. I learn it, I write the systems and SOPs in place, and then I outsource it to somebody. And then I can build something else and build something on top of it. And I have a VA that oversees all of my VAs now because he's been with me. He was the first VA I hired, but he now helps me put these systems in place. And so he holds everybody accountable. But if you just hire a VA up front, they might know a ton, but it's not your systems. It's somebody else's systems that they know. It's not the way you're running your business. It's not going to have your little nuances in it. You're not going to understand everything that's going on. So that's my big problem with the way that's going lately.
Yeah, and I know I've seen that like if we're talking about say Facebook ads or something, like
Yeah.
oh how do I learn to do that? A lot of people will just say, oh well, I'll outsource it to a VA and they'll handle it. But like I know like one of my mentors I learned a lot about the e-commerce side from. His whole thing was, how are you going to be able to tell if you just outsource it to somebody to do it for you, even if they're doing it? How are you going to be able to say if they're doing a good job or not? Like
Right.
you don't know what metrics to watch out for. You don't know like what CTR or cost per acquisition or any of that kind of stuff is. It should be. So like, how can you tell if they're doing a good job? You're just like,
Right.
hey, okay, go do it, bye, and then you're like, well, I don't know if they suck,
Right.
any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely like it's so much like, I know as business owners, we're busy. We're trying to juggle 5 million things, but take the time to actually create the process yourself.
Right. You should build, like, for your business, you should be building out your systems, or get yourself an operations manager to build out systems. But you're going to have to pay an operations manager a significant salary to get a good one to do that for you. But if you're not comfortable building out systems and you're more comfortable in like just marketing or just something like that, you're going to have to hire. And you're going to have to hire somebody with those kind of skills, not just a VA.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I wanted to ask you as well is, obviously we talked about books, and then it made me think of something else in terms of, and we were talking about basically the important things that need to get done in terms of processes. So there's a book by Gary Keller called The One Thing, and he talks about how, like, what's the one thing that you can do today that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary. So I usually want to ask people, like, what is that most important thing that you're working on right now?
So the most important thing I'm working on right now is building my personal Facebook page into a more of a professional Facebook page. That's my newest business ventures into some affiliate stuff and some social growth, organic marketing kind of things. And I see that that's kind of starting to be the trend, is just organic marketing. But I'm a good Facebook ads guy too. So I think if I can put the two of them together, I think I can grow multiple of my businesses together down a single path. But yeah, you really do need to focus on your biggest thing. I haven't read that book yet, but me personally, I have 4 things 5 days a week that I set out at the beginning of my week, and those are my 20 must finish things for the week. Just 4. It's just 4 a day. But they're high level things that I need to get to move. They're all things that move one of my companies in a further direction. They're not just meetings and stuff like that. Obviously I have those, but these are all, like we're launching a mystery box wine funnel this coming week. That's one of my tasks this week for myself is to launch that funnel, and get it launched. It's not perfect yet, but fail fast. Mystery boxes of wine is something that nobody's doing. So it's one of those things that I need to get some data back and spend some money to get that data back to see if it fails or not. Or if it pays off.
Sorry, we're breaking up a little bit. As you were talking about that, I wanted to ask you as well. So you have those 20 things that you're going to do this week. How did you arrive at what are those important things that have to get done? Was it simply from this is going to lead to sales, or what was your process to figure out those 20 things?
It's not necessarily sales. It might just be data, or larger marketing following, or analyze some kind of data point. But they're all objects that take my company from here and move them just a little bit, and if I do by focusing on what I do, by focusing on those just 20 things a week, it's allowed me to laser focus on those 20 things. And like everything else falls into place. I do a lot more than 20 things a week, but those are the things that I need to get done. They are my must do's. And it's 4 a day. And that's how it works out. It's 4 a day, Monday through Friday, 4 objects a day. And on every Sunday night, I sit down and I go through things that I know need to get done. And then I fit 20 onto my list for that week. If it can wait, it'll wait. It's worked really well for me, to get focused that way. And that's something I picked up from Garrett White. He does the Wake Up Warrior Challenge and stuff like that. That's a concept that he taught. And I tell you what, implementing that has been one of the most eye-opening kind of things for me. Yeah, I could do 150 items a week and get them done. But did I do 150 items that actually move the needle in my business at all,
Right.
or were they just things that had to get done on my to-do list? So now I focus on 20 that all have a needle moving effect where it can take my business to another level, and then let the other things fall into place.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very similar. Obviously, we're talking about the one thing earlier. They talk about it just from the perspective of it's the only the one thing, and that's the thing you prioritize. But there's another book, Ultimate Sales Machine, and they're basically that same kind of process you're talking about, where they talk about it in the idea of six. But
Right.
the only real difference here is that you're making like what is the one, and that's your number one thing. I assume then
Yep.
when you've got those four things, are those the first four things you do, or are you just trying to sprinkle them in when you can through it?
Just somewhere during that day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, the way I usually do it is I'll knock out 2 first thing in the morning and 2 after lunch.
Mm-hmm. Don't have that much time here, but I did want to ask you. You brought up the idea like that you're a Division One baseball player. What's something about you that people may not know?
I was actually New York State's youngest professional winemaker in 2008.
Really?
I got into the wine industry at 18, and was running the entire production of a winery, 25,000 gallons a year at 18 years old.
Wow. So how'd you get into it at such an age?
I was a big time chemistry nerd coming out of high school
Mhm.
and was looking for a part time job while I went to college. And this winery had a job opening for just yard maintenance and that kind of stuff. And I started working there, and about 3 months in, their winemaker had quit right before I started, and they hadn't found one yet. And the GM came to me and was like, "So you're a chemistry major in college? Can you take a look at this stuff?" And it just snowballed.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer here, but I did want to ask you a question. I asked this of everyone when they're coming on. I was actually a guest on a friend's podcast, and he brought up this question, so I pretty much stole it and I ask everybody this question
It's
now.
the way to do it.
So I want to say, like, what's your definition of success?
My definition of success would be taking where you're at now and moving forward. You know, you can define it any way you want, but if you make a step in the right direction, that's success to me. You've done more. If you try to launch an e-commerce brand, you're above more than basically everybody right now. You got to take that first step. The first step should be your first success. You will have failures on your way, but you know, look at Elon Musk. How many failures has he had with Tesla and these rockets? He hasn't quit. Um, and all he does is make more and more money. So, like anything he touches, just makes money. I mean, Dogecoin is basically a meme coin, and he brought it from nothing to like 10 cents a share last month. So, just because he talked about it.
Right. Very true. So I wanted to thank you so much, and it was so much fun having you on to here today to kind of share your story and your expert insight. So I wanted to ask you, how can our listeners find out more about what you're doing?
I'll say you can either reach out to me on Facebook at Justin Ortel. You know, I'm the operations guy at Zonbase as well for any Amazon sellers that are out there. I have a mentorship program through them. Um, if you're more into like the MLM affiliate marketing kind of side, um, we have a program called Social Sales Accelerator that helps you kind of take your leads and nurture them through a path, similar to Pepper, if you know what Pepper is, but much cheaper. $34.99 a month versus like $2.99 a month. So huge difference. But you can get, you know, hit me up on that. Just hit me up on Facebook. It's justin.socialsalesaccelerator.app if you want to take a look at that program. But otherwise, yeah, just reach out to me on Facebook. I'm super active. It really is me. It's not a VA, I promise. I have not outsourced my personal Facebook yet. So, but yeah.
Awesome. And we'll definitely have links for that as well for anyone listening today. And thank you again, Justin. And thank you for everyone that listened. And we'll talk to you guys next time on Morning Marketing Machine. All right. Bye.
Have a good one.